Hey, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Glad to be with you. Telephone number here, 874-9390 or 800-529-5572. Maybe you drink, maybe you have a cocktail. I'm not talking about being drunk, although you might do that too. You might be one of those heavier drinkers, but maybe you just go out with the family and you have a glass of wine or two at dinner, and you get stopped by the police on your way home. It is amazing the tricks, the ease with which the police can have you up on trial for driving under the influence. I read a book recently. It was just printed. It's called Fair DUI, F-A-I-R, Fair DUI. And I gleaned information from this I'd never seen anywhere. And it turns out that a fellow that I met up in New York, Warren Redlich, is the author. And I'm pleased to have him with Jennifer Bukowski, our own resident attorney at law here on the program. Warren, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Awesome. Glad to have you with us. This book is just chock filled with great information, and I almost don't know where to start. But I'm gonna take a stab at this. First, I want to talk about the DUI laws. You seem to have, based on what I read, a problem with the government in their .08 driving under the influence laws, right? Just generally speaking.
I don't like the what's called the per se rule. Setting a specific number and saying that's guilty. The problem is that it places too much reliance on a device that is not reliable. The devices that they use to measure blood alcohol content are not reliable, and they don't use police often avoid using other types of evidence that would be far more persuasive of innocence when the person's innocent and guilt when the person's guilty.
What kind of devices would be more accurate?
A video camera? If they're going to say the guy's drunk, I have these cases where they say the guy has slurred speech, and then he has impaired motor coordination, and then you'll see on video that the guy, or you'll hear on video that the guy doesn't have slurred speech and he doesn't have impaired motor coordination. That's evidence that the police are lying. That's valuable evidence, and in most places that I deal with, the police, it seems funny that Mayor Bloomberg and all these politicians want cameras everywhere except watching the police. They only want cameras watching the regular people. They don't want them watching government officials or police.
So you don't have videos of the traffic stops in your DUI cases?
Not in most New York cases and most Florida cases, no.
Oh, we have them here in Missouri, and that's what I spend just hours and hours doing, is analyzing the field sobriety testing. We have a big screen TV that we look at that to analyze whether the tests are administered properly, to listen to the speech, to watch the gait and all that kind of stuff.
And sometimes they look innocent, right? And sometimes they look guilty.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And so I wish that we could get the horizontal gaze nystagmus. Sometimes I can get them if they have a body camera, but not always.
Well, let's talk about some of these tests that they administer. The first one, and Warren talks about this, is the walk a straight line. What's the problem with that? It's heel-toe?
The official name of the test is the walk and turn test. And it sounds, first of all, most people think it's walk a line. The problem is that there's no line. I don't know how it's done in Missouri, but according to the national standards, there doesn't have to be a line. There usually isn't a line, and most police don't use a line.
Right.
And police officers will testify that the defendant stepped off the line. But it's an imaginary line. How do they know where he imagined it was? And when you get through I can go through point by point, but ultimately the walk and turn test is really a walk an invisible tightrope without moving your hands and without swaying test. Now, if you think about
listen to instructions without fidgeting test, and
I mean, would you agree it's walk an invisible line? Yeah. You're not supposed to move your arms. You're not supposed to sway. I don't know if anybody watched the guy who was crossing the Grand Canyon or whatever. I think he used his arms.
I will tell you that I was outside yesterday because I was anxious to do this interview, and I tried this. And having read your book, I realized that your heels and toes don't have to touch, but they have to be within, what, an inch?
Half inch.
Half inch. I had a difficult time walking it, and I don't drink at all. It can be difficult to do.
What's interesting is I've cross-examined many police officers, and they'll say the defendant failed to touch heel to toe. They'll say he stepped off the line, and then I'll have them demonstrate with me in front of the jury. Please give me the instructions as if I was the driver. And they give me the instructions, and when they're done, I'll say, "You never said the word lying, did you?" And they stumble because they believe they've testified multiple times before. They said the guy stepped. They're not even aware that they never tell the guy he's supposed to walk a line. They just tell him to walk heel to toe. And, one of the big questions,
That's
okay, let's suppose there is this imaginary line. Let's suppose there's actually an imaginary line there. How wide is it? If the line is a foot wide and you step off of it, I think you got a pretty good point. The guy might be intoxicated. But if it's, an inch wide, or and what the reality is, the line has no width at all. It's whatever the officer wants it to be. Look, the truth is that sober people fail these tests. Standing on one leg, staring at the ground, holding your leg up, keeping your foot parallel to the ground, all the things that you're required to do to the one-leg stand test. Most people can't stand on one leg for 30 seconds following all the instructions they give without showing a clue. Most sober people.
You and Jennifer both suggest when they start asking questions that you say, my attorney said not to answer any questions.
Or officer, am I free to leave?
Or officer, am I free to leave?
Both of those, yeah.
So if I've gone out to dinner with my family and had a glass or two of wine, and I get stopped and I start talking, they're going to say I slurred my words, they smell the alcohol in my breath, make me walk this imaginary line that doesn't, that we don't have any details about. I can be charged, even though I'm stone cold sober, with driving under the influence.
There's a recent case within the last few weeks where, of course, it was a black guy, but he was pulled over and the police officer arrested him. They take him back to the station. He blows a 0.00. They bring in what's called a drug recognition expert who examines him and says, I don't see any signs of impairment from drugs, and the police officer still charged him with a DUI.
Wow.
That was in the news recently, and, you can be charged. This is the thing. People think that it's only applied. I think the biggest message that I want to deliver about the book, and whether you read my book or you just go on do research on the internet or read whatever you want to read, people think that, and this is true of other laws as well. People think that the DUI laws are about somebody else. They think that this is, we got to stop those, those drunk drivers are terrorists and we got to stop them. Until the day it's them, it's their kid, it's their neighbor, and all of a sudden they realize, wait a minute, it's their brother. It happens to your parents, and when it happens to someone in your family and you realize how that they're treated, all of a sudden it becomes about you. And I've had this question so many times, and I'm going to bet Jennifer's had this question too. Why are they treating my daughter so harshly? Right? Have you ever heard something like that, Jennifer?
Yes, all the time. I'm in a college town, and the parents are stunned, and they're so upset at the way that their kids are treated that they've sent here to college. And yes, and there's two types of people in this world: those who have had the fortunate not to have to deal with the criminal justice system personally, and those who have. And there's a big difference.
And the people, when I get that question, I ask them, well, have you ever heard a politician say we got to be tough on crime? Oh, yeah, and you vote for those guys, don't you? Oh, sure. Well, they're being harsh on your daughter because you told them to. Well, no, I meant those other people. That's the thing. When you're sitting here listening, for the folks who are listening to this interview, you're sitting there and there's this idea in your head that this is about somebody else, that other people get arrested, it's not going to be me. And the reality is roughly 10% of American drivers have a DUI on their record. In Minnesota, it's 14%.
Wow.
The Minnesota Department of Public Safety on their website says that 1 in 7 Minnesota drivers has a DUI on their record. Now, that's going back, 20, 30 years. But I would say, if you're an average driver and you have a drink occasionally, it doesn't have to be you have 6 drinks. You have a drink occasionally, there's a very strong chance in the next 10 years that you're going to be pulled over and encounter a police officer facing a potential DUI arrest. Do you want to be prepared? Or do you want to walk in, be in that situation, not be prepared? Back to what you said, though, Gary, my advice in the book is to not talk at all, but that's very difficult for most people to pull off, because the police aren't going to like it when you don't talk at all. And that avoids, them saying that you had impaired speech when you refuse to speak.
You even go so far as to say that if they take you in and you sit down and they say, well, we need to get some information from you.
Right, don't even give them pedigree. They call it pedigree information. It's just pedigree. We just need your name. They already have it. They took your license. They took your registration. They have your pedigree information. They don't need that information. The purpose of all of this is the purpose of the entire traffic stop from the minute the police officer pulls you over is for them to find a reason to arrest you and convict you. And anything you do that will help them, they will use whatever you do against you. And I think one of the things is people will call me, and I'm sure Jennifer's heard this too, well, they didn't read me my rights.
Yeah.
Well, if you talk to them before the arrest, it doesn't matter. They don't have to read you your rights until they've arrested you. So if they pull you over and they say, "Do you know why I pulled you over?"
And they're interrogating you after.
They haven't arrested you yet. What you've said before they arrested you is fair game.
Right.
So your Miranda rights, you have your Miranda rights right now. You don't have to wait until they give you the Miranda warning to exercise them.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is most frustrating for me as a defense lawyer is the cases where I would have had a great case to fight, where I genuinely believe my client is innocent, first of all. But the police have the best witness of all against my client is what my client said at the scene.
Let me play the police officer here and ask you a few questions, and you be the guy that I suspect was DUI. Do you know why I stopped you? In your answer.
You understand I'm not talking at all, right?
Okay. All right.
You want me to play if I am talking?
Yeah. Well, yeah. These are the mistakes that people make. Like I might ask you, where are you coming from?
And the short answer is the answer I would give is, I'm sorry, my lawyer told me not to answer any questions.
And that's it, because if you say, I was just having dinner with my family, or I just came from Smitty's beer joint, you're leading yourself down the wrong path.
Well, there's more than that. It can get much more serious than that. Let's suppose you're driving down. Let's suppose you haven't had anything to drink at all. Okay, you're driving down the road. The police pull you over. You don't know why they pulled you over. And they ask you, where are you coming from? You say, I'm coming from my friend Joe's house. 5 minutes ago, Joe was murdered, and you didn't know that. And you just placed yourself at a crime. You weren't there. You left the house. Somebody walked in and murdered Joe, and you just placed yourself at the crime scene and made yourself a murder suspect because you opened your mouth. If you don't talk, whenever you talk, you are giving them information that they could. It's very rare that a police officer pulls you over and he's not looking to do something to you. If they pull you over, they're looking to do something to you. They're not looking to help you. There's exceptions to that. There's people, if they pull over somebody whose headlights are out, there are good cops. Hey, your headlights are out. You probably want to put them on, But there's an awful lot of police officers out there, and I would say the majority, who are looking, when they pull you over, they are looking for a reason to arrest you. Because that's what they're paid to do. That's what they're trained to do.
All right. Your book is called Fair DUI, F-A-I-R, Fair DUI. Where can somebody get that book?
Amazon.com is the primary way. The website for the book is fairdui.org. Fairdui.com also works, but fairdui.org is the main site. And it's the full title is Fair DUI, Stay Safe and Sane in a World Gone Mad. And I think part of and the MAD is spelled M-A-D-D. We have, there's a special interest group called Mothers Against Drunk Driving that works in conjunction with other special interests, including defense lawyers, frankly, some defense lawyers, to push for increasingly harsh drunk driving laws, because people like me make more money. The more people you prosecute, the harsher you make the penalties, the more people are going to be looking for a lawyer, and the more valuable it's going to be to hire us.
All right. It's fairdui.org or Amazon.com. That's the name of the book. Warren Redlich is with us, along with Jennifer Bukowski. Some more information that you aren't going to get anywhere else except this book. Your phone calls, too, on the Gary Nolan Show. It is the Zimmer Radio Network.
This is the Gary Nolan Show.
It's not your grandpa's talk station. Hot talk and breaking news 93.9 The Eagle.
It is 53 minutes after the hour. Glad to have you with us. Glad to be with you. The book is called Fair DUI, and that is the website where you can get it, or you can go to Amazon.com, F-A-I-R-D-U-I, fair.org. Warren Redlich is the attorney who's written the book. I've known Warren for probably 3 or 4 years. Let me just go through very quickly. MAD, you're really not happy about that organization, huh?
No, it's, I think the problem with Mothers Against Drunk Driving is it started off right. There was a problem with seriously intoxicated people on the road causing accidents. And, the founder of MAD broke with them some years ago because it had turned from let's get the really drunk people off the road to basically their real goal is to prohibit alcohol.
Yeah, prohibition.
Prime example is the National Transportation Safety Board, with the MAD's backing, has announced that they're going to try to push to lower BAC limits across the country to 0.05. And in the document where they announce it, their specific goal is 0. They say their goal is 0, but now it's 0.05. So, next will be 0.03 or 0.02. Their goal is to eliminate any alcohol in your body before driving. And the problem is that, I'm not saying it's good to have a couple drinks and drive a car. I'm not saying it makes you the safest driver on the road. But the practical reality is there are many things that impair driving. And you can't stop all of them. And the fundamental reality from a libertarian perspective that I come from is if you haven't hurt anybody, then government has no business interfering with what you're doing. Obviously, if somebody's really hammered and they're weaving all over the road, really, you don't even need drunk driving laws at all. Just call it reckless driving.
Failure to maintain control.
Careless and imprudent driving.
If you're driving in a manner where you're weaving across the road and you're not even hitting parked cars. Let's say you're getting near parked cars. You're doing things that are, a police officer sees it, police officer arrests you, writes you a ticket for, I don't know if it's a misdemeanor in Missouri, it's a misdemeanor in New York for reckless driving. You come into the station, the police officer describes what you were doing, you're guilty. Why do we need a separate set of laws for drunk driving when any kind of reckless driving is something that we should be concerned about?
I've argued that for a long time, and it makes sense to me. We're running out of time. Let me grab a call or two here. 874-9390, 800-529-5572. Warren Redlich with us. The book is called Fair DUI, and that's where the website is, fairdui.org. You can get a copy of this book. It's fast reading, but it's chock full of great information. David, welcome. Glad to have you on the Gary Nolan Show. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I know there's a penalty in Missouri, obviously, for refusing the blood alcohol test. Is there a penalty for refusing the sobriety checks, the balancing and all that?
No, and that's what I say. Those tests are subjective nonsense to just give them what they call probable cause to arrest you for a DWI, and you should decline those tests. And if they ask you to perform those tests, say, I'm sorry, officer, my attorney advised me not to, I'm free to leave. And then they need to arrest you then or not without you performing those ridiculous tests that they can flunk anyone on if they want to.
Correct.
The only thing I would ask Jennifer this, can they use it against you in a trial that you refused?
They can use your refusal to take the breath test, I believe, but I don't know. That's a good question about the field sobriety test.
Well, if you refuse to take the sobriety check and then you blow and it's below the limit, then you're free to go.
Yeah, but
you would think that.
both of these attorneys, Warren Redlich, the author of Fair DUI, and Jennifer Bukowski, both tell me that there are some problems with that breathalyzer, at least the portable one for sure.
Yeah, you can have false readings. They can think that your medication is contributing as well and still arrest you, even if you blow under the limit.
And the caller, just to distinguish something the caller said, there is the handheld device that they will have you blow in at the scene, which is only considered reliable in most places for whether you have alcohol in your breath or not. It's not considered reliable for a number. And then the other test is one in the police station. Usually some places they have them in vans, where it's a larger machine that theoretically has more safeguards. And is more reliable, although it's still not reliable in my opinion.
Well, here in Columbia, we use the Alka-Sensor 4, which is shocking, I know, to nationwide experts on DWIs.
I know a friend of mine who had borderline diabetic, and that made the meter move over the edge. Listen, if you want the information, you've got to get the book. It's fascinating, and it's chock full of great information. It's called Fair DUI. F-A-I-R-D-U-I. FairDUI.org has it. Amazon.com has it. Go out and get the book. Warren, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, buddy. Take care.